Good evening, everybody. And for those of you who are watching the replay, welcome. Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Forgive my voice. I still have a little bit of vocal cord issues from all the tubes down my throat and everything else. So we'll try to make it through this, see how we do. Let me do a sound check. How am I coming across other than distorted from my vocal cords? Hey, Sumi, welcome. And we've got Suzanne Goulet and Little Lone Prepper, and Theoxerus was the first one here this evening. So welcome. Good to see you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So we're wrapping up this fantastic book. Please, even though we're wrapping it up, if you haven't already bought one, get one. It is a must-have for your library, for your prepper library. Ted Riley's Prepare Your Home for a Sudden Grid Down Situation. I think there's a lot more situations other than just grid down that you really need this book for. Good evening, Gil. Welcome. Gil just came over from his live. He just finished it. And I think I saw Utah Mike. Yeah, there's Utah Mike. Good evening. Welcome. For those of you who don't know, on Monday evenings, there's Camp Patton Family Compound. It goes live the hour just before we do. Strongly recommend that you do that. And then Gil also has another channel called Gray Man Prepping. And he has a Tuesday night live with that. Well, there are different lives throughout the week. So I think Gil does a live almost every night of the week. So you can catch him pretty much almost any time. He puts out some fantastic shorts as well, pepper tips. So catch those. Great book. Where's the one that we're reading for? I've got so many books around here that I don't know what I'm doing. Let's see, Devil in the Casto, Libro Cristo, Exodus. This is the fiction book club book that we're reading this month. And I know where it is. It's in my reading room. But we're reading Jonathan Hollerman's Survival Tactics. We'll start it next Monday. So that'll be the new book. If you want to buy it, the link is in the description below. Please remember, I do get a referral fee if you buy it with that link. So I get about 2% of the selling price of that. When I receive anything from either watched hours on YouTube or from the sale of any Amazon links that I put up, 25% of that goes to the Salvation Army, 25% of it goes to St. Vincent de Paul, and 25% of it goes to my county food bank. So I give away 75% of all the money that I make on this channel to help other people, because that's just what we need to do. Remember, we're all in this together, even those who can't afford to do it. So, hey, Kaylin, Cats and Prepping, Mother Earth Garden Club. Golly, look at all these great names. Thank you all for being here. How much I appreciate it. I can't tell you. Thank you, Little Lone Prepper, for putting that link up. And Cats and Prepping says she just got the new book in the mail. That's great. I am really impressed with it. So looking forward. He and I don't agree 100%. He's a big-time bug-out guy. I'm a big-time hunker-down guy. So, you're going to see some differences there. There are a lot of things that the mainstream preparedness community believes in that I don't. And you're going to find out one of those this evening as we get further into this book. And he doesn't get that much into it, but we'll get a little bit more into it. Actually, this chapter is only about 8 pages long. So we kind of are going to take that and extrapolate it for everybody, and we'll have a discussion. If anybody wants to join me on that discussion, please, in all caps, say, put me on, and I will send you the link. Here, why don't we do it this way? Well, I'm going to wait. I want to wait until I get what I have done. Then we'll go into a panel type discussion. If you want to discuss it, if you want to appear on the channel, I will go ahead and put that link up later so that you can come on live with me. If you have a microphone and a camera, we're good to go. Then we can have a discussion about it. Okay. So in the event of economic collapse is the chapter we're doing now. What's valuable now? Cash. And so whether you read Selko Bekovich's books, My Year in Hell, How I Survived the Bosnian Civil War, or if you read Ferfal Aguirre's books on economic collapse in Argentina, or if you read Venezuelan preppers, I can't call them books. I guess we could call them PDFs or articles, whatever, about the communist takeover of Venezuela. Regardless of which one of the recent, and I'm going to call 1990 to now recent SHTF situations for that locality, we're going to say that if you read those authors, they will give you a lot of insight in what it's going to be like when it happens here. I know a lot of people do a lot of theorizing. The best thing for me is read from the people who are going through it or who have been through it. They will tell you exactly what you need to know. And I don't think the U.S. is that much different from most of the other second and third world countries as far as what's going to happen to us if anything does happen. Excuse me. You can tell I'm wearing my sweatsuits. Now that we're older, Helen and I have different temperature requirements for the house. When it gets down to 72, I start adding clothes, and she wants to turn the thermostat down, leaving a little bit cooler. But I start adding clothes when we get down to 72. And so this is my attempt to stay warm at 72 degrees. What they all say is have cash on hand. Nothing larger than a 20. 50s and 100s aren't going to do you that good because most people aren't going to have anything to break that cash to give you change back. Most people don't realize, but only about 3% of the total U.S. M1, which is our total money supply, is actually printed in either cash or coin. So 97% of all the money we have in the United States, the gross domestic product, the M1 money supply, is actually digital currency. And when I say digital, that means it's an account entry on a bank. So if you have, let's say, $1,000 in a savings account at First Missouri State Bank, then that does not necessarily mean that there is a $1,001 bills in a drawer with your name on them at that bank. It's just an entry into an electronic system. So they may only have $3 that's actually in your name. Try to cash a larger check. I've done it a couple times. I tried to cash a $5,000 check. They said, no, they have to have 3 days advance notice to get that kind of cash for me to withdraw from an account if I wanted cash, because I was buying some precious metals and the guy I was buying from would only take cash. So I've experienced that. So try to keep cash, 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s, and they all say the same thing. Have plenty of cash on hand. And then the next major heading in this chapter is if cash loses its value. Cash may well lose its value, and if this happens, bartering may become necessary. Wait! Before I get there, how much money do you need? How much cash do you need to have on hand? He recommends at least $2,000. I'm going to say I would like to have 3 months' salary equivalent. So if you make $2,000 a month, then that would be somewhere around $6,000 cash to have. But it's kind of hard for me to do nowadays since I don't have any income. Everything I have is Social Security retirement. So, but anyhow, if you can, try to be able to pay your bills for up to 3 months. That would be great. Tammy Harder, good evening. Welcome. Cats and Prepping. So if cash loses its value, then you basically are looking at some type of a barter system. I want to cover that a lot more detail here in just a minute. Bartering tips, and then he talks about how to build a do-it-yourself bag. So before we get into bartering, I want to talk about another alternative, and the other alternative is precious metals. One of the things that we don't do as preppers, we do a very poor job of, is when we talk about SHTF, we don't define what SHTF is to us. And that's number one. There's a big difference between economic collapse. If there's an economic collapse, this is a waste of money, okay? You're not going to need a face mask, a protective face mask. On the other hand, if there's nuclear fallout coming down, that is going to be far more valuable than other things. So depending upon the scenario, what the event is that you're facing, different items have different values. As we start talking about violence, Then self-defense items start increasing in value. One thing that's consistent across all the scenarios: food, water, medicine. Okay. In an economic collapse, precious metals have value. This is a pet peeve of mine, so I'm going to ask for your indulgence. Please do not use the trite, meaningless, ignorant expression, "You can't eat gold and you can't eat silver." You want to know something? I can't eat this either. I can't eat a straw to suck water out of a contaminated pool. I can't eat that. I can't eat my backpack. I can't eat my mess kit. I can't eat my fire starter. There's lots of things that I can't eat. So saying that you don't value gold because you can't eat it, that's one of the least thought out arguments that I have heard anybody come up with. If you don't value it, just say, "I don't place any value in it." Okay. So number one thing we have to discuss is, what is the event? In an economic collapse, I will tell you, I think precious metals is going to be right up there with cash, probably even more so than cash. You've seen photographs of the Bundesrepublik in Germany in between World War I and World War II, where they used wheelbarrows of 10,000 mark notes to buy a loaf of bread. And so cash will have varying dependencies. Soko Begovic talks about the two things that were of most value in what used to be Yugoslavia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, were US dollar bills and euros. So if you had either one of those, you had it made. Same thing. Ferfala Girde talks about euros and US dollar bills. Venezuelan Prepper, he only mentions US dollars. He doesn't talk about euros. But you can notice the consistency here, that having what is considered to be the international backup currency, reserve currency, was extremely valuable in every one of those scenarios where the country fell apart: civil war, communist takeover, and financial collapse. Oh gosh, Little Lone Prepper. Yes, that's the absolute truth. She says that she gets cash for the intention of finding something to spend it on, and then she spends it on. I'm kind of that way too. If I purchase a firearm, I know there's a record of it that you fill out the federal form. I know that. But if I buy a firearm or if I buy ammunition, I only pay cash. I will never use a credit card or anything else where there's a monetary attachment to me to that item. Okay. So there's just certain things that I will not purchase with credit card or with a check or anything like that. I want to pay cash and just leave it at that. And like when you go to academy, I don't know if you have an academy where you are, they want you to put in your last four of your social security number or your telephone number, even for cash transactions. I just put in all fives, and then I'm good to go. And no, I don't want a record of anything that I bought that could be confiscated from me. So, and Fiaxra says that the bad thing about prepping for things that don't happen is that if another thing happens, bartering off electronics or NBC gear might not be worth as much. We're going to get into barter here in just a minute. And a pet peeve of mine there too, but this is just from years and years of experience. So remember, I've been doing this since 1962, which was the Cuban Missile Crisis. My next door neighbor was the block civil defense warden. Where's my civil defense warden? Let me see. Where are you? Right here. Oh, right here. Over here. One of my civil defense warden signs from that era. So I've been doing this for over 50, 60 years. And so there's a lot of things that I do a little bit different than what you're going to hear the mainstream say nowadays. Ooh, I'm getting a little bit warm. I think I'll unzip this a little bit. And underneath is my Nutrient Survival shirt. Yeah, great company. There's a link for them down below as well. Okay, can you still hear me? Is the mic in the right place? Uh, yes, as a matter of fact, Keelan, that's a great suggestion because back in World War II, when people were trying to escape Nazi control, one of the things that they found was having jewelry that they could use to trade. And I don't so I'm remember my no, you don't know. Uh, I am very definitive about money purchasing versus bartering. So bartering is a trade. If you want to call me giving you $1 for your pocket knife is a barter, then okay, then you can say using precious metals, gold, silver is a barter. Okay. On the other hand, if you say that if I use $1 to buy this, or instead of $1, I use 1 gram of gold to buy this, then that's proper. But be consistent. Okay. If you are trading one object for another object, okay, that is a non-fungible, non-consistent, non-monetarized item, then that's barter. Anytime you use something that is fungible, which means it can be broken into smaller pieces and have a residual purchasing power, like I can't take this knife and break it in half and say, here's half a pocket knife, okay? I can take 1 ounce of gold and break it in half and say, here's half an ounce of gold. We can still measure the value of that. So that's fungible. So there are certain rules in economics about what we call barter or trade and certain rules about purchase or buy. So anytime you use cash or electronic cash, which is basically a fiat measurement of money, or a precious metal, that is a purchase, not a barter. Okay. So back in World War II, as Kaylin points out, a lot of the people who are evacuating the countries wore their value with them. So watches, gold watches, chains, necklaces, earrings, rings, all those things become important as far as using them to bribe people or to purchase things. Now then, okay, Gil, enjoy. So yes, you can. The problem with having jewelry, I was buying when I was doing my normal every other Tuesday purchase. I was over at Austin's Best Gold and Silver, purchasing my normal silver, and this guy came in and he had this necklace, and the thing probably weighed 4 pounds, and he wanted to sell it, thinking it was pure gold, and so he scratched a little bit off. And he says, "Wait a minute, this is only gold plated." And so then after he scratched a little bit off, he took that and he did a test kit on it, and it wasn't 24 karat gold; it was only 12 karat gold. So now you got 50% gold content, but the gold content isn't even all the way through the necklace. It's just a very thin layer on the outside. He says, "Okay, I'll give you $86 for it." And this guy, thinking he was going to get like $12,000 for his necklace, oh, man, he was just really upset. That's the problem with jewelry, is you don't know how much of the plate is plate and how much of the gold itself is gold. Whereas, and the other thing is you don't know the purity of it. On the other hand, let me grab my wallet out here. On the other hand, if you carry things like, I'll give you 2 examples that I carry in my wallet. Extra key to my pickup. Oh, I guess I don't have that other one. Don't know what happened to it. Where are you? Don't have it. I carry what look like credit cards, and they have 1 gram of gold in them. And 1 gram there's 31.1 grams of gold to an ounce. But since I can't do that, this is 1/20th of an ounce of gold. Okay, so this is basically a U.S. What they call a gold eagle, okay, which is a U.S. printed coin. The gold eagle itself is only worth $5 face value, but it's worth over $3,300 actual melt value. This right now is probably worth about $150. Now, the reason I like these is notice it's in an assay card. And so the assay card says two things on it. It says, number one, that this is 1/20th of an ounce. And number two, it says that it's 99.999% pure gold. Okay. So when you have something like that, very small, very, that's very transportable that you can carry. Now you've got something that you can really trade with, that you can purchase things with because it has actual value. Same thing with any coins in silver. So you've got the rounds. Now the difference between a coin and a round, they both look the same. A coin will have a government name on it, and it will have a printed value, like Australian kookaburras have one Australian dollar. Canadian maple leaves will say $1 Canadian. Both of those will say 99.999% pure silver. The U.S. has the American Silver Eagle. That says United States of America, $1, and it says 99.999% pure silver. Okay, those are coins. Now, if you get another one that's a round, and my favorite round is what they call the Buffalo, but it's done by Provident Metals. But it looks like the U.S. Buffalo nickel. Okay, exact same front and back, but there's nothing on it that says U.S. government or $1 or anything like that. What it does say is 1 ounce, 99.999% pure. That's all it says. Okay. So that's a round. That's not a coin. It looks like a coin, but it doesn't have a government name on it and a government value. That's the difference between between a coin and a round. Exactly. And that's the whole point. So in an economic collapse or in a grid down situation, so if the electricity goes down, chances are they're saying that there's a 90% chance that we will have rolling brownouts this year. That is, if nobody messes with our grid. If they do mess with it, then you're going to need a lot more than just credit cards, because your credit cards, nobody will be able to use them in a grid down situation. Phioxera says, I can think of a lot better ways to get by than barter. It's definitely a risky situation. I wholeheartedly agree. Orion Preparedness, good evening. I haven't seen you before. Welcome. Well, they're not going to be currency. They'll be barterable items. Okay. I'm a stickler for terminology. Okay. So currency is something of value that you can break apart and it will maintain a fraction of that. So if you take a round of ammo and you pull the bullet out and all you have left is the casing, the primer, and the powder, that now that you've tried to make it fungible, tried to make it into a smaller increment of value, it no longer has its value because you've torn it apart. Okay. So anything like that is not fungible, you can't break it apart and retain the property so that it's equal value for the parts, then that is not a currency. And a currency is a form of money. So that the original money was gold and silver and some precious stones. The Romans came along and they tried to create money. And then the way they created money was with salt. The Latin word for salt is salarium. And so so Roman soldiers were paid in salt. And that's where we get the word salary from, is the Roman soldiers' salary or salt payment. J. Wesley Rawls advocates jewelry. And the other thing he also advocates are what's called constitutional coinage. And that's 1964 minted coins and before, because most 1964 and earlier coins are 90% silver. Okay. Then, with the exception of the Kennedy half dollar, the 64 Kennedy half dollar is 90% silver. The 65 and 66 Kennedy half dollars are only 40% silver. Then after that, all the other coins from 1965 on, no silver content. So great. James Wesley Rawls advocates jewelry. He also advocates Mercury dimes is his favorite. In his book Patriots, you'll see that they're walking around with rolls of Mercury dimes that they are purchasing things with. Everybody has like 5 or 6 rolls of Mercury dimes. Hello, Shenanigans. Welcome. Good to see you. Not all of what? Not all the jewelry's marked. Yes, that's absolutely true. Goldbacks, I'm not sure if they're ever going to gain that much value because that's one of those micro thin layers of gold printed onto a piece of paper. Now, remember, the reason that they started putting corrugation on the edges of all of our coins was because back when they were silver or gold, people would take their knife and scrape portions of it off. And then you could take a shaving, 1% off of a gold coin today and use it and then pay. Take another 1%. After you had 100 transactions, you've got another new gold coin, equivalents in gold. So they started corrugating the edges so that people couldn't shave off any gold or silver from the coins. And that's the reason why they did that. That's the reason why we have those rough edges on everything except the things that don't really count. Although the penny, copper is becoming a precious metal. I can't believe that. But the penny is becoming a precious metal. Let me see here. The Oxford should trade his wedding ring. Mine, Helen and I bought our wedding bands. These are 20 karat gold. We bought these in 1984, and I think we paid like $300 for them. I would imagine both of ours are probably about half ounce. So between the two of them, they're probably up to about $3,300 now. Let me see. I'm with you, Foxers. I am with you. And like I said, they aren't well enough known to have any value. So wow. Well, and we're going to talk about that. That's going to come under barter. Yes, great lead in. Let me see here. Let me catch up on the rest of these comments. Yes, and so as a matter of fact, the widow's mite was a Jewish coin. I have several of them. And then the shekel. And so you have a lot of bronze and brass coinage from back then. But the real measure, if you look at it biblically, from back in as far back as what we can see, at least in the Egyptian Empire, was gold, silver, and some stones like rubies and things like that. And some spices. I am unaware of the silver nickel. I'm aware of the steel nickel, but I'm unaware of a silver nickel. I'll have to look into that. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, absolutely. Begovich talks an awful lot about jewelry. And as a matter of fact, in his book, he talks about 1 ounce of gold was used to buy a regimen of antibiotics for a family member. So they had 1 ounce of gold from jewelry that they had to trade to get a regimen of antibiotics. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I think it was in 1943. Let me check that. Just 1 second. I think 43 was a steel nickel, silver nickel. Wow. Yeah, it says that there were silver nickels between 42 and 45. I am totally unaware of that. Thank you for teaching me about that. That is great. Okay. Now let's talk about barter. Okay. So I already told you, first thing we don't do when we talk about barter is we don't define the event. We need to define the event. I am prepping for a nuclear war. I am prepping for a civil war. I am prepping for a financial collapse. I am prepping for grid down. Once we've established what that is, now we can say, where do we think we are in the timeline? Selko talks about how candles and flashlights. First, flashlights were the most, flashlights and batteries had extremely high value the first month or two of the war. Then everybody switched over to candles, and candles had high value until about the fourth or fifth month when candles started, running out, and then everybody was in the dark. So they didn't care. Everybody's eyes adjusted to the dark at night. They didn't need candles. They didn't need flashlights. If you had one, you were really, really rich. But different items have different values at different times in the timeline of where you are. So when we first start out, one of the things we have to think about is, what is everybody wanting? Before I go there, 95% of the population is not preparing. Quit thinking you're going to barter with other preparedness people. So if only 5% of us are preparing and 5% of us are hoarding alcohol, then, and we think somebody's going to want alcohol, they're going to come and give us something. Why are they coming to us in the first place? They don't have anything. They haven't prepared. What are they going to give us in exchange for our alcohol? What are they going to give us in exchange for our tobacco? Maybe labor, if we're lucky. Can we trust them? If I want to have a guard, okay, and that guard's addicted to alcohol or tobacco, and they think I have more inside, do you think I'm really going to sleep safely with that person as a guard who wants the rest of my alcohol or tobacco? I don't think so. So I don't purchase things to, quote, barter. I purchase things that I think I am going to need in a post-apocalyptic world. So if I think it's going to be valuable for me, then chances are it's going to be valuable for somebody else too. So what's the number one thing that most of them are going to be looking for? Water and food. Okay. If you have food and water, I think you'll be able to barter for almost anything that you want. And the other three people who have written about it pretty much agree. That's what everybody was looking for. Selko talks about going out and bartering for MREs that were dropped by U.S. airplanes. Furfal Aguirre says that the kings were the people who came in from the villages and had foodstuffs that they could sell. They had to have lots of protection, but they had foodstuffs for sale. So the number one thing is prepare for yourself. Don't worry about what other people are going to want or need, because chances are, if you have food and water, you have what they want and need. Okay. If you have medicine, you have what they want or need. If somebody comes to my house and says, do you have a lighter, a Bic lighter, I'm going to say, okay, I have a Bic lighter. What do you have for it? And that's the question we don't ask, is what do you expect to get for what it is that you're bartering away? Okay. So if they haven't prepared, then, what are they going to offer me? Now, the next question that we have to ask is, I've seen a lot of people say, well, tobacco. Well, right now, less than 16% of the population of the United States smokes. That's one person out of every 6. So if I'm buying tobacco instead of food, 6 people out of 6 want food. Only one person out of 6 wants tobacco. Okay. Alcohol. Less than 50% consume alcohol on a consistent basis. Okay. I've automatically eliminated half of my target population by getting alcohol. And the question I have to ask myself is, what could I have gotten for one bottle of vodka? Could I have gotten 5 jars of oatmeal? Okay. So think about it. How much can I get barter wise for that 5 jars of oatmeal versus 1 bottle of vodka? Okay. So start thinking in those terms. The next thing I want to talk about is feminine hygiene products. So I want you to do the math here too. People say, well, people who need it are going to be desperate for it. I don't think that. I don't think they're going to come looking to you seeking feminine hygiene products. So let's take a look at it. The United States is roughly half and half male, half female. Males don't use them. Boom, they're gone. Now let's take the female population and take a look at it. Approximately 1/3 are prepubescent. They don't need it. Approximately 1/3 are postmenopausal. They don't need it. So 1/3 of 1/2 of the population, or once again, just like cigarettes, 1/6 of the population needs female hygiene products. So hello, Goshen Prepping. Gosh, one of my favorite channels. So you're now preparing to not deal with 5/6 of the population and deal with only 1/6 of the population. So that's another one of those cases where you're giving up things that you can use, things you need, in favor of things you hope somebody else will want or need. Okay. I go for get what you want and get what you need, get what you think you're going to need. And, I can't stress it enough that what we need is what other people will need. Now, let me give you a couple of Lee's rules of prepping, of bartering. Never barter at your location. Go somewhere else. Make sure you have a guard when you go. One of the things that I do, that I plan on doing, is you've seen these things I'm buying on a regular basis on my weekly pantry hauls, these storage containers. Okay, so besides the fact that this is the one Helen just washed in the dishwasher. Besides the fact that this is just perfect for a number 2.5 or PC can of Thrive Life freeze-dried food. Now, what I can do, okay, remember they've got those coffee can type of a lid. So I'm going to take my PC of Thrive Life Foods. I'm going to pour it in here, all but a little bit down at the bottom, okay? And I'm going to leave it in that can. And I'm going to put the coffee can lid back on it. Now, if I take that to somewhere to barter, what does it look like? It looks like it's the last of what I have of that, okay? That I'm giving away the last of what I have. And so people aren't going to automatically assume that I have more. If I do it the other way around, if I take a container with some of my barter items in it, then they're going to say, he filled that up from his original container. But if you pour your original stuff into a new container and then use the dregs in the original container, that gives the perception to other people that you are out of that this is the last of that item. So they aren't going to come looking for more, okay? Never use the same route coming back that you went. Make sure you have somebody on your back. If I were going to go out and barter right now, okay, I would take nothing with me. And I would say, do you know who has? Okay. Now then, chances are the person that I'm going to talk to first doesn't have it, but they may have heard that somebody else has it. Okay. So they say, oh yeah, John has that. So I go talk to John. I say, John, what do you want for it? And John says, you know what I really want? I want a bucket of survival seeds. I say, oh gosh, I don't have a bucket of survival seeds. Know anybody who might have those? Yeah. Okay. Well, can I give you a little bit more than just a bucket of survival seeds if you'll hold those for me for a couple of days while I go look and see if I can't find those? And he's going to say, sure. So then I'm going to start looking for a bucket of survival seeds. So I start asking. So now I've asked John. John wants the bucket of survival seeds to get that, whatever it is that I want. So now I go over here, and the guy who has the bucket of survival seeds, what does he want for them? Well, he wants 5 gallons of gas. I don't have 5 gallons of gas. So now I've got to get 5 gallons of gas to get those bucket seeds so I can get what I want, right? So now I got to go, okay, who has 5 gallons of gas? So the guy who has 5 gallons of gas, he says, well, and this is a very simple, I'm going to make this as simple. I want 1 tube of oatmeal. So I'm going to say, okay, I think I can get that. I think I know who has that. Well, I know who has it. I have it, but I'm not going to tell him that. I'm going to tell him, I think I know somebody has that. Can I come back tomorrow? So now I'm going to go home. I'm going to get my tube of oatmeal. I'm going to put that tube of oatmeal equivalent, okay, in that tube so that now it looks like I'm giving him the whole thing. I may have a scoop or two out of it, but it looks like it's pretty much the whole thing. I'm going to take it back to him the next day and say, okay, here's your tube. Okay. Thank you. I get the gasoline. Now I take the gasoline over to the guy who wanted the gasoline to get, I forget what I said I wanted for it. I traded with him so that now he gets what he wants. I get. Now I can take that and finally go back and barter with the guy who I originally got with. That's the reality of barter. Barter is not going to be, hey, I have a sewing kit and I need hey, I have a sewing kit and I need some antibiotics. Okay. and they say, "Oh, sure, give me your 50-cent sewing kit, and I'll give you a month's worth of azithromycin." It isn't going to work that way. It is not going to work that way. It's going to be far more complex. And because it's that complex is why we're going to end up having, Mad Max and the Thunderdome, right? Barter Town. We're going to end up with barter towns where people are going to set up tables and they're going to be trading and selling just like your first Saturday market days in your town. And people are going to say, okay, now what is the common currency that the people are going to use? Well, the common currency is probably going to be used among all those vendors is going to be either cash or precious metals. So that's where cash and precious metals come back into the picture. After a while, there's going to be a natural evolution into markets. And when those markets appear, that's when you want to have things of value to trade. Now, you will be able to take some of the things that you have. Let's say you have an extra knife. You have an SC5 that you don't need. You can take that, and there might be somebody there who's willing to purchase that with cash or precious metals. You take that cash, then you go buy something else that you want or need from another vendor. And that's how that's going to work. So I don't think barter is going to be the way that most other channels say that bartering is going to be. Okay. Some of the things that now I'm going to give stuff away. I'll be honest with you. When people come to my door and they want something, I'm going to give them something. I buy those Maruchan cup of soups, the shrimp bowl and beef and chicken and all this stuff. I then vacuum seal those. And so I won't give them away in the vacuum seal, but I write the date that I vacuum seal them on the vacuum seal paper, plastic. And I'll open that up. Now they're crushed, okay, because the air has been sucked out. So those styrofoam cups kind of crush. But I'm going to have one of the two of those that look crushed. I'm going to say, here, I can give you this, okay. Now that looks like I'm doing something for them, but it doesn't look like I'm giving them something brand new or that I have a stash or anything like that. The whole thing is, how can you be clandestine in what you're giving to them? Give them packets of tomatoes, of ketchup. Back in the Great Depression, they were using tomato ketchup to make tomato soup. So there are things you can do like that that do not betray the fact that you have a lot of stuff. I buy the little 6.5-ounce cans of veg-all and other types of vegetables and things like that. I might give one small can of veg-all and a small 4-ounce can of Spam and say, I'm sorry, guys, this is all I can afford. I know you have a family of 6, but this is all I can afford. You know, if you want it, take it. If you don't, then I'll eat it tomorrow. And so if you do it that way, I think that's going to be a little bit better. Do not give the impression you have more. Always give the impression that it's going to be difficult for you to find whatever it is that the other person is asking for that has what you want. Okay. So let me catch up with the comments. That may have gone down a little bit. It may be that only 90% is not prepared now. I think that people started getting into preparedness, especially over the course of the last couple of months. But it's right at 90%. So Goshen, and they are up in Michigan. I believe they're in the Upper Peninsula, but they might be in the Mitten area. But he says that they're preparing for good down. I think that's one of the most realistic things we can prepare for. It was William Fortune's book, 1 Second After. I was reading it, and they have a brittle type 1 diabetic in his family, and I have a brittle type 1 diabetic in my family. And the lack of insulin, he loses that precious family member. And I said, I need to get that taken care of. So that's the reason why we have whole house solar with battery backup, is so we can keep our insulin cool. And then I had to find a backup to what happens once our 3-month supply of insulin is gone. Well, we may just use partial doses to extend that to 6 months. But another thing that I found out was that Walmart has some non-prescription, but and not that expensive, but fairly, but not what you would call affordable, non-prescription insulin alternatives, generics. So I've talked to the pharmacist at Walmart, and so we're going to go that route. We're going to get more when that happens. Phioxerus says that pregnancy prevention is going to be critical, and pregnancy prevention. There were ways that we did that up until the invention of the prophylactics that we use today, whether that be medicinal or otherwise. And but there have been natural ways of doing that for a long time. We just need to rediscover those. Laura Mannion says that hygiene products are good medical preps. Absolutely. I've got it, believe it or not, for our group, we ration toilet paper. So we have, for a male, okay, we're going to give them 12 squares of toilet paper per day. For a female, we're going to give her 40 squares of toilet paper per day. So, I mean, we've got it figured out as far as our rationing for our group, what we're going to do with those. But yeah, hygiene products become extremely important. Washing hands, probably the single most important thing you can do in a post-apocalyptic world to protect yourself and your loved ones is to keep your hands washed. That's where most bacterial infection is going to be spread from. Yeah, I don't know. It would definitely be it would definitely be a lot of overkill. A box would probably be overkill for me. Yes, incontinence products. I put that in the medicinal array of things. Utah Mike says his plan is to not need and just store more. Absolutely. I am 100% in agreement with you there. Buy what you need, buy what you think will benefit you and your family. And chances are that if you think it's necessary enough for you to spend money on now, it'll be something that other people will place value on after whatever happens. Yeah. And when you have small stuff like that, that does not give any kind of a vision that you have a whole much more behind it. However, I want to encourage you to think about what is the impression if you have pre-made Ziploc bags of goodies to give out. My thought is, she did this ahead of time, so there must be more, right? On the other hand, if you take them out of the Ziploc bag before you ever see that person and put them in your hand and say, this is all I could come up with, okay? Think of the perception of the person who's receiving it. If they see it in your hand, one tea bag, one of those little packets of sugar, one of those little packets of salt, and maybe a bouillon cube, and you say, I'm sorry, this is all I can spare, okay? Now that's a very realistic thing to them. Yes, they scrounged for this, right? And they can come up with this, and thank you. But if you have it in a plastic bag, my perception is that was prepared. You probably got more. Let me get here. Absolutely, Foxtrot. You need people to back you up at all times. We will not survive alone. You must have a group of people. Okay. A lone wolf is a target. Now, who was it? I want to say, what was the book we read last month? John Grammer? No, it wasn't John Grammer. I know. It was Ross and Kirkham's book, volume 3, the one that the Homestead movie was made after. He has a line in there that I think is extremely valuable, and you've got to remember it and live by it. And he says that an ace of spades is beaten by a pair of deuces every time. Okay. The deuce is the least valuable card in the stack. If you've got two people with guns versus a tactical commando, right? Chances are the two people with guns who are in defilade are going to take care of that one ace. Okay. So just remember, a pair of deuces beats an ace every time. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that's going to and from is going to be even far more dangerous than the barter site itself. So they're going to be looking for people who are carrying things to a barter site. I absolutely agree with that. Let me see. Thank you, Laura. That's what do what you can to make it appear that you're scrounging to give what you are. Uh, I would one of these days I may do that. I don't like bad mouthing companies. I really don't. But I would encourage you take a look at My Patriot Supply. Okay, take a look at their 2 week survival kit. Okay, it may say 192 servings or something like that. Okay, take a look at what the servings are. 12 of those are glasses of whey milk, 14 servings of oatmeal, um, 22 servings of rice. Take a look at those. Okay, now can you then equate what they are selling? You can probably get better quality milk at a cheaper price. I know that you can get, for example, right now, a PC of Thrive Life milk is like $8 a can, and that's like 32 glasses of milk. So for $8, I can get the equivalent of what they're doing inside the My Patriot Supply package. So start taking a look at, can I buy something and get greater value? Now, this is where, and I'm going to tell you, My Patriot Supply has value. Okay, that's why I don't like bad mouthing. Everything in prepping has an advantage and a disadvantage. Everything in prepping has a cost. Okay, and so one of the things I want to encourage you is I'm going to do this triangle, and this is a very simple rule of thumb for prepping. So I've got this triangle. I can get things, but I want them, you can only get two at any one time. So if you want something that's good and cheap, you won't get it fast. Okay. You're going to have to scrounge to get that. And we can also call this convenient. If you want something that's good and fast, then it's going to be very expensive. Okay. If you want something fast and cheap, fast and cheap, it's not going to be that good. So the where we fit in with My Patriot Supply is you're going to get it fast. It's going to be at a fairly good price. I will admit that, although you could do it better yourself, but it's not going to be that good relative to what you could have gotten had you purchased it itself. So if instead of going for cheap and fast, you went for cheap and good and started doing it yourself, you would have a different value set. Okay. So everything in prepping has an advantage and a disadvantage. And I want you to take those into consideration as you prepare for what you're going to be doing. And I am one of those, Phioxerus. So absolutely shenanigans. So getting extra things that you need for your family makes perfect sense. And I think that's what we all need to do. Think of ourselves first. Let me see. Okay, I think I'm caught up with the comments. Does anybody have anything else they want to do? So here's Lee's rules of thought. Cash, get some precious metals. You don't have to get a whole bunch. I would say maybe a couple ounces of silver. I prefer silver over gold, and let me tell you why. Um, right now, there's about a 60-to-1 trade. So where gold is, 1/60th of the price of gold is where silver is. Okay, so that means for if let's say I invest $100. Okay, I get 1 ounce of gold. So I'm going to get approximately for that same ounce of gold that I bought, I could get close to 60 ounces of silver. Now, if gold goes up a penny, I've made a penny. If silver goes up a penny, I've made 60 cents. So anytime you can get smaller increments and more volume, if there's a price increase, then that price increase is going to be greater for you. But now the opposite is true too. If the price goes down, you suffer more. But I prefer silver to gold for investment purposes. And then, for SHTF purposes, I've got both, not much. But, I do have enough. You saw I carry 1/20th of a gram of gold in my wallet. That's my emergency money. So, but, there are people, I saw one where, what was his name? There's a guy who walks around the states and he asks people questions like, how many colonies were there in the United States and who did we fight and all those kinds of things. He had a Snickers bar and a 1 ounce silver round. And he asked people, which one do you want? And every person he approached that was shown on video took the Snickers bar over the silver round. The silver round at that time was worth $15. The Snickers bar was worth about $2. So, it just goes to show people don't know the value of a lot of things. So that's another problem you're going to have in a post-apocalyptic world is people may not know the value of precious metals. Okay. That's it for the evening. So, excuse me, I've got these gaseous things from my surgery. But anyhow, next week we're going to start with Jonathan Hollerman's book. Now, Jonathan Hollerman took over Dr. Peter Vincent Pry as probably one of the biggest advocates of hardening our grids. We have 3 grids, the Western grid, the Eastern grid, and the Texas grid. And talking about how susceptible they are to EMP, CME, or even terrorist attacks. Yes, there are terrorist attacks against power stations. When I worked in the power industry, and this was only 6 years ago, I was in the industry, we were having monthly attacks against substations. I think they were trying to find out what they could do to have an effect. People were taking pot shots at the transformer coolers, and those are mineral oil, and they would shoot them with 7.62 AK ammunition, trying to take out the power station, the substation. But there were all kinds of reports we saw on a monthly basis where people were trying to take out the power grid. This was 6 years ago. Let me see. No, I sold my store. No, I worked at the homeless shelter 3, had my store for 3. It's been 3. This was 10 years ago. So, yeah, they've been trying to do it for quite some time. Don't be surprised if we don't go without power. Think about possible backups. There's a link down below. Jackery currently has a sale going on. There's a link down below. If you use it, then I get a little bit of a finder's fee for Jackery. I would like to try OPS. Goshen Prepping has shown OPS or OOPS or whatever. And I'm really impressed by what I see. I would like to try that. Okay, so I think that's it for the evening. So let me grab out my good old Bible, and we will go to Book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So thank you all so much for being here. Think about what it is you want to get for yourself. Don't think about getting stuff to give away in hopes that somebody else is going to have something that you should have gotten when you had the opportunity. Okay? So remember that we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please continue to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other because togetherness is the key. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.